Josh and Frankie. What a couple of dumb shits.
Hello, Primates! You found Primus tracks. Congratulations. There are so many places to find Primus tracks. I'm not going to list them here, but I trust you and your Google Foo to find them if need be. I'm Josh, joining us from the 39th floor of Primus Tracks Towers, as he does every episode, is Frankie Bearstein.
Hi, Josh.
How's the view today, Frankie?
Fantastic.
Gaiatus as far as the eye can see.
Yes.
His kingdom of sugar. That's a beautiful place. You know, today we're talking about Scott Taylor, which is track number 7 from your Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains album of the Big Eyeball in the Sky. I think we've certified it. I think the paperwork came through. It is a certified banger, Frankie, and when we have a certified banger, we bring in someone who can handle the bangers and the mash all the way from the East Coast of the United States. Returning to the podcast, he might be setting some kind of record with this return visit. It is a man of La Special. It is Luke Bemand.
Hey, Luke.
Good evening, Josh. Good evening, Franklin. It's great to be back, boys.
Welcome back, man. Your voice, there's a little edge to it. I have a feeling you had a great time on your most recent La Special tour.
Yes, I just got back from a 3-week tour in the Midwest, La Special and Doom Flamingo, so I've got a little bit of grit to my voice, and that's why I'm sipping this lemon ginger tea to no avail, apparently.
Takes time. You know, it's kind of like at the start of the school year. I lose my voice in the first week, but I'm just building it back up is all I'm doing. And then the next week it's strong for the next.
That's it.
Yeah, next 9 months or what have you.
Well, thanks for not waiting until my voice was strong to have me back on.
We'll re-record this. We'll do some overdubs 3 days from now.
Great.
It'll be absolutely clear where we insert them for sure. And then you guys are doing a Southeast run around New Year's Eve, so we won't see you at the Fox in Oakland, correct?
I will miss Frankie's big night at Beanpole, unfortunately. Yes, we're doing a little run down in North Carolina, and then New Year's Eve in Atlanta at Terminal West. But you guys promised me that you would FaceTime me during the Beanpole set.
Yes.
And so as long as we coordinate that, I'll feel like I'm there.
We will do our best to make something happen. Hopefully, La Special can have a set break, a floating set break that you can just give everybody else the signal, and then it's FaceTime with Frankie as he sings Beanpole songs to you.
Oh, I can't wait. It will be listed as an official sit-in on the set.
Oh, Frankie, you'll end up on the set list then.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's a winner.
Tonight, Josh, we have some major miscellaneous debris. We need to address the latest post by the band, which is pretty much an open invitation to all drummers worldwide to submit their video in hopes of joining the band for their proceedings the next year. Yeah. Now, my personal theory, Josh, this is just my personal theory, is that they're looking for someone to fulfill the Santa dates, but who knows what might happen beyond that. Will they create any new music? Will this person become a permanent member of the band? That's up in the air. At least that's what I gathered from the post. What is your perspective?
That's what the language sounded like to me, as far as they were going to search for the world's greatest drummer. Or was it the greatest drummer in the universe? Now I forget the...
Something like that, yeah.
I forget the language.
We do need to address the pachyderm in the room. Luke, has Rory already submitted his audition tape?
Rory told me to let you guys know on the podcast that he is preparing his submission. He's very grateful for all of the support and everybody tagging him online and on social media. That's like his presidential what he submitted me to say on the podcast. He wants to thank America, but Yeah, he's getting it ready, and I mean, he's been talking to some of his contacts in the Primus camp, but he's auditioning just like everybody else, and they're taking this seriously as an open audition process, which is pretty crazy to think about, considering how many incredible drummers they all know collectively, and particularly Les, and to make it an open forum submission for any drummer in the world to become the next drummer of Primus, I think is a really cool thing to do. We all have his back 100%. Anyone that's been commenting on threads like, oh, but we don't want the special to break up, we won't. We would just hopefully go to more Primus shows, which would be cool.
Yeah.
For my friend who I've grown up with listening to this band, playing this band, who showed me this band and changed my life, it would be so incredible to see him live his dream. But also for the special, it would be hugely beneficial. So we are all 100% in supporting Rory and hope he gets it, but who knows? It's very interesting to see where this will go. But I love that it's like a rock star with Mark Wahlberg kind of, twist to it. Like, it could just be some kid in his basement who's like playing this music, and gets the call of a lifetime. It's pretty amazing.
Of course, in '96, they put on the website, they put out the search for the Golden Drumhead, and that was all a feint. They weren't actually auditioning anybody because Les had called Brain. They just kind of put it out there. Right. And then in 2010, it was Jay Lane or nobody. So this is legit, it sounds like. And so, and I do wonder what it means for many of the names that were floated, that the guys would know, that could walk in the door and jam with them. People like Claude Coleman from Ween, Stephen Perkins from Jane's. Mike Borden, of course, close friend of Les. Dave Lombardo was floated as a possibility. These are all just names that people tossed out there, but they all sounded intriguing. But we have we're casting a much wider net. So, and
it is pretty crazy. And especially if the new drummer does come on for Sasanta, just like no pressure playing with those other two drummers on stage. Yeah. Like, and it's like the other drummer that's subbing for the Tool in the Stand is Danny Carey. Like, not big shoes to fill at all. So it's like, it's really, and you just gotta love like the rush that it's giving drummers everywhere. No pun intended, but like, that's so cool to me.
Frankie had mentioned that there's a flood of these audition videos now on YouTube.
Yeah.
YouTube is going crazy. Yeah.
Oh, cool. You've been watching them?
I do comp YouTube daily for Primus videos, so I have to watch them.
Who stood out? Who's the best one so far?
A guy who played the scheme. I think that was really cool. Yeah, it was refreshing. It was a refreshing choice.
Because is everyone just doing like Jerry was a race car?
Jerry, Winona, the usual cast of songs. So whenever someone tackles something unusual, it's really worthwhile checking out.
Yeah, smart way to stand out.
And how much is your input weighted in the decision, Frankie? It's pretty high percent, right?
Oh yeah.
They said that I'm going to be one of the filters for sure.
Oh man, that's it. What an honor.
I can imagine Frankie just sitting in front of the monitor, watching these videos and just giving the thumbs down, and then they yank the video and it's over.
Just like a council of like elite drummers and Frankie on a throne.
Yes.
It's like Joaquin Phoenix, just like
yeah, you bet.
The Emperor.
So that's worth watching. We don't know how much they're going to publicize of this search. We have no idea, of course, and we have no input. We are just some guys with a hobby. But it is an exciting time, of course, as they search for a new drummer, and we find hopefully somebody who can be in it for the long haul and bring these guys together to make new music going forward. Yeah. So pretty exciting.
Yeah. It's exciting for sure.
Today, however, we are talking about a track called Scott Taylor. This one checks in at 6 minutes and 15 seconds, longer than I remember. Certainly doesn't feel like it's over 6 minutes. It is an instrumental track, and it's got our four named culprits in the band name, Colonel Claypool's Bucket of Bernie Brains. Frankie, what do we know about this mysterious instrumental?
Scott Taylor An instrumental from the Big Eyeball in the Sky premiered on September 24th, 2004 at the Quest Club in Minneapolis, with 14 subsequent performances during the 2004 fall tour. It was often extended to accommodate improvisations by Bernie, whom enjoyed lengthy solo spots throughout the track. Trivia. Listen closely to the studio recording, and Les can be heard laughing at the end.
There's voices throughout this. That's Les, is what you're telling us.
Yeah, that's Les laughing at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, even kind of in the middle, he's doing some like funny, nefarious cackling.
Yes, right at the beginning of the track too. So beginning, middle, and end, you hear some like I don't know if it's a guy pretending to be a rooster or what, but it's there's some funny stuff going on throughout. So that's Les. All right, that was a mystery I wanted to resolve, and Frankie, you already knew, so thank you for that. Was this a regular on the tour then, Frankie? I may have missed that bit.
It was on heavy rotation, 15 performances in total.
All right, so, and that's out of only about 20 odd dates, if I recall. So,
we mentioned the official number in the last episode, but I forgot. Was that like 23, I think?
23, 22, 24, one of those numbers, yeah.
So I would say it was kind of a certainty during the tour.
Now, do you know?
And it was very accommodating for Bernie in particular to showcase his talent.
Yeah, and we get a taste of that on the record, and of course, it makes perfect sense to let him run wild in a live setting with this track because he does take the lead in a couple of spots. Now, are either of you guys familiar with the name Scott Taylor or who this might be referencing?
Who is the Scott Taylor?
Luke, any ideas?
I was waiting. I didn't even want to look it up. I was hoping one of you would tell me and I could find out live on the pod.
I will accommodate you right away. So Scott Taylor, there's a reason I think this track with this name appears right next to Junior in your track list. This is the person.
Don't tell me he's a member of the Bush administration.
He is not. I can tell you that. And turns out there's a lot of Scott Taylors, but this Scott Taylor is the one who I believe is being referenced here. Really, when you look at the last half of this record, Junior, Scott Taylor, 48 Hours to Go, Ignorance is Bliss. Clearly, of course, the Iraq invasion is on Les's mind, and he's really upset about it, or at least it's sticking in his craw. This Scott Taylor, who I believe to be the reference point here, is a military and war journalist. He's from Canada, and he wrote a book that was published in 2003 called Spinning on the Axis of Evil, America's War Against Iraq. And the Axis of Evil, 20 years ago, people remember that phrase. That was W's term for mashing together North Korea, Iraq, and Afghanistan, who were clearly... It wasn't a Marvel team-up, we'll say that. But... This book was published, and Scott Taylor, he served in the Canadian military, but he's also a lifelong reporter and journalist. In this book, he documents how the U.S. government manufactured justification for the invasion in 2003 and how the mass media more or less fell in line to endorse it. But he also went to Iraq and reported on conditions there for everyday people and what they were going through and suffering through. I think we can infer... his stance on all of this from his dedication in this book, Spinning on the Axis of Evil, which reads thusly: dedicated to all the innocents that have suffered and died in Iraq, first as the victims of their own brutal dictator, and then as the collateral damage of international power brokering lies and greed.
Oh my God, that totally explains my illustration. I was totally blank when I looked it up on my Instagram. I did that back in 2019 or 18, I guess, and I drew a moose giving a speech on a podium. So now it makes sense. I thought I was just being random, but
there's a lot of moose in Canada, Frankie. Did you?
I did look it up then, back then.
This must be the same guy that you had found.
Yeah.
Something further on Scott Taylor, just 2 weeks before this record was released, Scott Taylor was in Iraq to continue his reporting, and he was kidnapped by some Islamic extremist group, the name of which escapes me at this time, and was released 5 days later. Of course, after that, he went on a lot of cable news programs and documentaries and told his story. So I would imagine that Les either read the book Scott published or read some of his many op-eds in Canadian newspapers, possibly while Primus was touring. Maybe saw Scott on some news or panel shows. Probably was buying what Scott was selling around his position on the U.S. Approach to Iraq at any rate. We definitely don't have to delve into the book. I read an excerpt of it. It is predictably heavy and depressing in just about every direction. That's 20 years. That's history now. And I was a 21-year-old college student at the time. I was there, I guess I can say, when all this shit was going down. So that's Scott Taylor. The instrumental tune, it doesn't sound like it has anything to do with any of what I just spoke about, but background is helpful.
Well, it's a pretty dark and heavy tune, so
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess I can see the parallel.
There is some heaviness to it, and Luke, I wanted to ask you in general before we get into some of the specifics, what draws you to the Scott Taylor track?
Yeah, because I picked this track, right?
You did. I didn't foist it upon you, no.
Okay, I've always liked Scott Taylor. I think this might be, if not one of my favorite tracks on the album, and I think it was when I was listening to the album when it came out too. I don't know, something about this track always stuck out to me, and it wasn't really so much the bass part, which is why I was saying to you guys, I don't even have my bass with me today. I would have used the fretless 5-string because he's using the rainbow on it again.
Yeah.
But to me, it's the bass part is the supporting part. It's a Bernie track.
Yeah.
And the keys are awesome. So when I was a kid listening to this, 15 years old when it came out, I was figuring out Bernie's organ intro on my shitty little Yamaha instead of the bass part. so I could play it, but I don't have a pipe organ, like a circus organ with me here.
Sure, yeah.
But it always just kind of, it always stood out to me. I liked how dark and heavy it was. And even when I was kind of just figuring out the riff before we got on, I realized it's a Phrygian major riff, which is something that LaSpecial plays a lot in that tonality. A lot of Les Claypool's music has that. It's dark and it's kind of almost like ominous, but like it's got a flat 2 in it and a major third. That gives it this sort of like interesting, like almost Eastern kind of sound.
Yeah.
And it just sounds evil and kind of demented carnival music, which is what this band kind of was to me. And so I feel like this song kind of like surmised that. And it started, it's got this cool ripping. It's like, it's kind of just Bernie like messing around, like sound checking, and then ripping into this crazy organ line.
Yeah.
The band comes in and it's heavy and crazy. And then it just kind of like devolves into this like Bernie Brain's weirdo like mode. And I don't know, to me it just felt like that's what this band is, that's what this record is.
Yeah.
So yeah, this track was always one of my favorites. And I just thought it was like, it's called Scott Taylor, like why? But
yeah.
So, I don't know. I always like this one.
This one has it feels very organic to me. It has a lot of parts, it has a lot of ideas, but they all flow really well.
And it sounds like the band is reacting to what each other is playing, right?
Yeah.
Totally, especially to what Bernie's doing.
Yeah. It certainly has that feel that this one's all natural, and it sounds like it just came straight from one of their jams at those improv shows or at a sound check, and it just flowed right into the studio, seemingly.
Yeah, so it was probably a one-take thing, and Les probably just heard Bernie doing this evil Phrygian line, and was just like, oh yeah, like hit record.
Yeah, we're doing that. Yeah. And we get Bucket doubling that cool lick throughout. That's one of my favorite parts. There's a lot of stop-start in this one, which is of course a Claypool thing, but it's a kind of a different stop-start. I think it's has much more musicality to it throughout with the stop-start. So there's a lot to really like with this instrumental, and I think I've said this like 3 or 4 times. This might be one of my favorite tracks on the record. So like it's a top-heavy record for me, I think, so far. I wanted to play, excuse me. So even though there's numerous ideas, they all come around more than once, and that's why I stated that this tune doesn't feel like it's over 6 minutes to me. It feels much shorter, and I think it's because I enjoy the hell out of it. Wanted to play a couple of spots and get your reactions, Luke, for the what you're hearing musically, what you're hearing from the individuals. of course, you stated that much of what Les is doing is supportive, but whatever you're hearing in these parts, I do actually want to play about the first 30 seconds where we get that Bernie goofing around but leading into the main riff. And it sounds like, to me, it sounds like Bernie either messes up or is just a little sloppy getting to the start of the riff, but they kept it in. That's what it sounds like, but it being Bernie, maybe he did it on purpose. But here's the first 30-odd seconds of the tune. Yeah, that's a killer start to a track.
It's insane. This song is psychotic.
Okay, so we have that really cool Bernie lick. Buckethead doubles it, and then at about the 30-second mark, Bernie goes up in register and hits that higher note, and then gives us some flourishes there. Listening to it, and I think I have it at a higher volume in my cans than I did earlier when I was listening to it today. Like, Brain's beat is so ballsy. You know, he's just giving just hitting that thing. That's a ballsy beat he's putting under it. Les is doing some really cool tapping on the rainbow. What are you hearing musically, Luke?
Yeah, it's great. I love it. And you wonder who's laughing. Is that Les laughing there or Bernie? But and then when he goes into it, they're just all right, let's go. They just launch into it. Yeah, Brain's digging in. Les comes in on that little syncopated bat bat. So he's doing just that kind of right hand upper register tritone tapping and a lot of left hand big long slides. To me, it's kind of reminiscent of the Rapscallion bass line. Mm-hmm. You know, a lot of that tapping. I mean, a lot of his bass lines are on the right hand tritone, left hand slides, but it sounds like he's just letting Bernie go for it and letting Bernie and Bucket double that line, that Phrygian line, and him and Brain just having fun playing it. But it's cool. They dig in. I feel like they're enjoying how heavy it is. Whereas with Junior, it starts off and you think it's going to be this technical metal song, and then it just goes weird psychedelic. Bernie's kind of in the background playing those weird chords. Here, I think they're just all right, let's make a heavy track with some P-Funk keys, and that it works really well.
Yeah.
To me, I've always perceived these almost kind of baseball stadium quality to the keys.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's just baseball stadium on acid is
sound.
Yeah, he's not doing the bump 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 bump, but it's close enough, right? He's doing some. It's like a post strikeout music when the visiting player strikes out and you play the little tune to celebrate or something. But
that'd be a great edit to hear Bernie Worrell play an MLB game.
It would have to be a bunch of bloody clowns though playing baseball for this to really apply. But that's
I would watch that.
I feel you on that, Frankie. It's very baseball park, amusement park quality to it, but it's certainly more menacing, especially with what's going on around it.
Yeah, it's a big organ sound, and like you said, when he starts to sustain that high chord and Bucket's doing it, it's heavy. Yeah, and it sometimes organs don't always sound heavy, but it works as leading a heavy track here. Yes,
and I think that's unique about it. You don't hear a lot of heavier tracks spearheaded, by an organ. Of all.
Well, we joke around with bands when they cover Primus, if a jam band covers it and there's a sustaining organ over it, we're just don't play. There's none of that. That's not in Primus. But they should be covering Bernie Brain songs, if they want to use the organ.
Absolutely, yes. I don't think Jerry would sound very good with that organ over the top.
I've heard it all. I've heard it. Yeah.
Oh,
I'm not
man.
gonna name names, but too many puppies with organ. No, come on, that's not what happens.
Huh? Yeah, I don't think I'm buying that one. I'm gonna forward to, I think, my favorite riff of the tune. You might hear me say that more than once, but I think this is my favorite riff of the tune. And I think it is the stop-start quality, but also what Bucket's doing with his wah here. Like, that is so it's anything but groovy. It's so stop start staccato, and those stops for Bucket just to mess around into and then when he opens up the wah and it's wow wow, I just love that sound. It's so raw.
It's so unique to him. It's Buckethead, and it's got big like Praxis vibes, especially on this track.
Oh yeah, we haven't really talked a lot about the Praxis connection, other than when we talked about the making of the record. But this is 3/4 of Praxis hanging with Les, and this one is probably the track that most goes in that direction.
Yeah. I think that's why the Praxis record came out before this, didn't it?
Oh, I believe so. Oh yeah, Praxis was doing stuff in the 90s, right?
That was a while. Okay, yeah, because I had purchased the Praxis record. I found it in an album, like in a record store, somewhere in Boston. Like before I was living there, I was visiting, and I got that. And I really dug that album. And then when this album came out, I was like, oh, cool. This sounds more like Praxis than Primus, especially this track.
Yeah, this one in particular for sure. And it has that avant quality, I suppose. Praxis is kind of hard to describe for me, so I just kind of use that umbrella term. Oh, it's avant-garde. And that's enough even for the layperson to go, yeah, I'm not going to like it. And I'm like, yeah, you probably won't.
It's like Buckethead. It's like Buckethead's his own. If you like Buckethead, check out Praxis. If you don't know what Buckethead is, you probably aren't going to like Praxis.
Yeah, you could say that about any band he's ever been in or involved. Like, if you like Buckethead, you'll like this. If you don't, stay away.
Yeah.
Your life will be just fine. You won't miss anything, except for those 2 years in Guns N' Roses.
Yeah.
But I think that is my favorite part, just because of the way he's futzing around with his wah during those stops. But I really like Brain's double time during the ascending part.
What would happen whenever Axl Rose was running late for a Guns N' Roses show? Like, would Buckethead just shred on stage to make time?
I don't just take out like the chicken, and he would just start doing the nunchucks, like whatever.
I don't think they took the stage when Axl was running late. I think they just kept it empty. But you could, how great would it be to have put Bucket up there on stage by himself with his toys and his guitar in front of 15,000 Guns N' Roses fans who are, and his nunchucks, right? Just stymieing over 10,000 people who would probably head for the exits or not know what to make of it at the very least. So, yeah.
They should have. Like, what the hell were they doing putting Buckethead and Brain in the band in the first place?
What I remember is they were a package deal. So Axl wanted Bucket, but he would only go if Brain went. I believe. I think I'm getting that correct. And awesome. And then Axl, of course, fell in love with Brain and has been. I think Brain was in Axl's employ for years and years and years, even after Bucket left. So that's how they got in there. But I saw them in 2002 or whatever, and it. Of course, Bucket can play anything, so he's playing all of Slash's lines to perfection. And they played a couple of the tunes that ended up on Chinese Democracy, and Bucket was playing his leads, and it was a pretty cool show.
That's cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much, actually. Mostly because I saw Bucket and Brain. Which was great.
That was such a great marketing move that now whenever people listen to Chinese Democracy, they want to drink a can of Dr. Pepper. Or whenever you're drinking Dr. Pepper, you want to listen to Chinese Democracy, right? They are forever linked.
I must have missed that ad campaign because it has no hold on me whatsoever.
Yeah, wait, what? How is Dr. Pepper like? How is that related to Chinese Democracy?
Yeah, were there TV commercials, Frankie? What was that about?
No, I think you. I recall you got a free can of Dr. Pepper when you purchased the album.
Oh my gosh.
That Axl Rose, marketing genius.
Give him a can of sugar water. That'll get him out in droves. You know.
Wow.
You can't download a Dr. Pepper.
I'm gonna look this up. That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
It is so weird.
In March 2008, Dr. Pepper promised a free can of soda for every single person in the United States if Axl Rose finally released the long-awaited Chinese democracy by the end of the year.
Oh, wow, that's epic.
I see. So they were just trying to get him to put the record out.
Yes.
Okay. So did everybody get their can? I don't recall getting my can. I'm going to write the company. I'm very upset.
Yeah, I wonder if they'll still issue that, if you can complain to Dr. Pepper headquarters.
Yeah, Luke was 7. So he's like, look, I didn't know about it. I was 7. Can I get a can? I love Guns N' Roses. I love Dr. Pepper.
What year was this?
2008.
Okay.
Axl Rose took the promotion. He took the promotion in good humor, releasing a statement clarifying that he and his management had no official deal with the drink, but were very happy to have Dr. Pepper's support.
Okay.
That a more meaningless statement has never been published.
It's they're not supporting you by doing that. They're making fun of you.
Thanks for the free publicity. I'm gonna pretend like I'm not the butt of the joke.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to forward to about 2.5 minutes into the tune. This part I really like because we've come back around. We've heard some of these riffs already. But in this section, about 45 seconds right here, the repetitions in my notes I wrote become increasingly unstable. Kind of like Axl Rose. Yeah, that's pretty badass.
Yeah, it's insane. It sounds like at the end he's hitting kind of like a Digitech, a whammy pedal, which those.
Yeah, that must be what it is, because it's just he's in my imaginary. He's just yanking the string as far off of the guitar as he can without breaking it. But yeah, I think it's more of a digital whammy, I'd imagine.
Well, he could be doing that too.
Yeah. Buckethead can do anything.
Yes.
There's also in the background when they're doing that stop-start, there's something, I don't know if it's a sample or if Brain's actually holding a shaker or something. It sounds like there's one of those shakers going on. And I've never really been able to place that, who's doing what there. But it's very syncopated, and it adds just another layer to that part that is so chaotic already.
Yeah. It's very just organized chaos, and once they start coming in with those really tight hi-hat hits, it gives it some synchronicity. But that shaker thing, I was listening to it today too. That with I was like, what is that? It's just who knows what was going on with these guys.
And those parts where the ba-na-na-na, that little part right there where Brain is accenting it with the kick, that really gives it more intensity too. So that's really cool, because I don't think he does it the first couple iterations, and then there he does. So, these guys have. This is what I really admire about bands and groups and individuals who can do this, including Luke, you, and LaSpecial. You guys have that. You have that feel. You have that vocabulary. So you know what you're building towards, or you know what the possibilities are when you want to ratchet it up each time around. Maybe it just comes organically when you guys are jamming. I don't know if you can elaborate on that.
We just want people to think we know what we're doing. That's all it is. It's all mind control.
Okay. All right. So you're playing the game.
Yeah. Yeah. We don't know. They're just playing, and then as soon as Brain syncs up with one, it's oh, no, they got it.
Okay. Fair enough. It does seem like it's this thing's going to fall off the rails at any moment, but they are just holding on. There's, we're talking about Praxis, but this many portions of this tune, and maybe the entire thing, would not be out of place on the Pee-wee's Big Adventure soundtrack.
Totally, yeah. Like I always think about that too, like the Pee Wee Walk-On music, and
Yeah.
I think it's just like this album. It's so quirky and crazy, but it really is just a preview of what the live show was, right? I mean, like the band started as a live collaboration, and Rory and I got to see the band in 2004.
Nice.
We were at the Roseland show October 1st, 2004, and it was insane. It was amazing. It was like we had seen Primus twice. Yeah, Frankie, are you familiar with the show?
You guys met Buckethead.
We did. Yeah, we met all of them afterwards. And they were all really cool. We were 15 years old. It was at Roseland. We just went around where the tour bus was, around the venue in the back, and they were all just hanging out, signing ticket stubs. I still have mine.
Buckethead was completely silent, right?
He was totally silent. He had the mask on, but he had a green Adidas tracksuit with the hood up. I didn't know what the hell to say to him. I was like 15. I was just like, "Hey man, it's crazy. You don't say anything, and then you shred the guitar, and you got this mask on." And he just looked at me, and I was like, "Yep."
So if you meet Buckethead in person and you talk to him, he'll just stay quiet.
Yeah, he just stood there and looked at me. Granted, I didn't say anything too philosophical to him, but like, I mean, he took my ticket stub and he drew a little bucket guy on it. He drew
That's cool.
That was his signature. He just drew a bucket and a little like guy with a face. They were all really nice, and I mean, Les was really cool too. It was the first time I met him, my hero, and I was like, "Hey man, thank you for inspiring me to get out there and play that bass." And he was like, "Play that bass, hey!" Like signed my ticket, gave it back to me. Super cool for like a 15-year-old kid. And then Bernie, Bernie was very kind of like fragile, right? Like small, soft-spoken, and you don't want to go at him with some crazy energy. But just thanked him, told him he was a legend. It was an honor to see him and meet him. Signed my ticket stub. I think the only one we didn't meet was Brain. I don't think Brain was back there. But even like Gabby Lala came over, and she was really nice.
Nice. Excellent.
She signed her and she's like, "Oh, I get to go and hang out with the guys on the bus tonight," because she was opening that tour, but sitting in on like Big Eyeball. Everyone was so nice and cool. We're like, that was amazing. So it was crazy, like to see that configuration of musicians on stage, and then to also meet them as a teenager. Yeah, it was really it was a special thing for sure.
Right on.
Jelly.
Yeah.
I want to play one more part from this track, and this is I just wrote in my notes.
Just play the entire track.
I know, and we're just gonna headbang for 6 minutes.
Girl, let it play.
Frankie, you nasty. I'm gonna play this part of my notes. I just wrote bucket and badass backing, so I was feeling alliterative in the moment. Let's hear this. That sustained organ sounds wonderful here, and like Bernie knows when to pull that out, because you're taking it to another level when you do that, I think, and that's really cool backing from everybody. But Bernie just hanging on that, it just takes it to another level for me, because I don't listen to a lot of keyboard or Hammond organ heavy music, but when I do, the Hammond organ or something that sounds like it really gets my, it kind of tugs at your soul like a bit, I guess.
Yeah. Bernie's taking you to church. I mean, that's like a lot of like, rock or soul or, not usually as well or effective, but in jam bands, like it's a sustaining organ is just like a nice pad for a guitarist to wail over. In this case, it's like Buckethead is just going full shred, and it works really well. And there's so much of this album where they're both just being oddballs and weird, and, like it's very the intervals are very like out and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But here it's like, I just love it. I just feel like this is the one they let themselves shred on,
Yeah, it's always nice to do that. And I've been sending you links and videos of Michael Manring over the last few months, and he, we asked him. He's a very disciplined player.
He was that bass player.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
guy I
cool.
sent you recently.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, incredible musician, very disciplined player, knows when to let it rip, knows when to not. He just has an incredible sense of that, of course, from decades of playing. But I remember Frankie and I, when we were speaking with him, I asked him, does it feel good just to shred sometimes? And he said, oh yeah. And that's like
Yeah.
this is a guy who was playing new age music for a long time and then started getting into the rock world and some other things, but he just wants to let it rip. And that he took a solo that night when he was in town. The rest of the night the music was nothing like that. It was much more contemplative and that sort of thing. But when he brought out the hyper bass, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get this video because I know what's up.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you got to let it out of the cage every now and then, and it's. I love hearing Buckethead just be like dissonant and weird and crazy and like tapping with his like chicken, but it's like so that the first drop in this song and the guitar solo, the second guitar solo in the first song, is that Ballad of Buckethead or is it just Buckethead?
Buckethead, yes.
Yeah, those two moments are like some of the most heavy, like triumphant moments of the record.
Yeah,
they're just like heavy and just let them rip. So those are definitely this and that and the first are my favorites on this record for sure.
I think we're on the same page there. It's just when they really let it take flight.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Like, it's another level. It's really cool.
And it is because they're amazing musicians, but it's cool that they don't. Like every track isn't just a shred vehicle. It's like there's so much weird that when they do just really let it rip, it's super effective.
Yeah, that's true. So picking your spots, not overdoing it. By the way, shred vehicle, that's a new one. Frankie, add that to your lexicon.
Yeah, Bernie Brain shows were shred vehicle songs, not jam vehicles.
I think we're gonna do this now. Oh yeah, that tune could only mean one thing. It's time for Primate's Takes. If you would like your takes on the tune that were up for discussion, read right here in the podcast, all you have to do is go to patreon.com/Primus Tracks, and the universal constant there is this very benefit. So today we're going to hear from a few of our wonderful Primatrons about Scott Taylor. Frankie, get ready. Anthony Del Preet, go Bills, says, I enjoy the 6-string fretless over all that menacing beauty. Now, I think I used the word menacing, but I didn't use the word beauty, so I think putting those together makes perfect sense here.
Yes, well said.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. I think you're right. Eric in Australia says, for some reason this one grabs me more than any so far in this retrospective. The carnival-esque Bernie organ riff is great, and Les's tapping bass tone puts me in mind of Jerry. And that references something you said earlier, Luke, with the right-hand tritone tapping and whatnot, and the left-hand slides. It's not uncommon, but it's certainly in that neighborhood.
Very much. Yeah, this bass line reminds me most of Jerry and Rapscallion, I would say.
Especially on that right-hand tapping, I hear Rapscallion. Like, I hear that, and it's... Yeah, I love that
especially
sound.
around like when they were playing that so often on the Tour de Fromage just the year earlier too.
So he really had a reignited love affair with that rainbow bass in 2003, 2004. That's for sure, because it was all over Animals. It's very common on this record and in the live shows for Bernie Brains. Most of the photos I've seen, if he's not on the upright bass, he's on his rainbow bass. It was a big part of it, and especially just a lot of like the Tour de Fromage, a lot of those dark, deep jams. He was playing the rainbow bass and playing these kind of atonal, big sliding, tapping parts, and that vibe carried over to this project a lot, I think. Yeah, I guess it gives you more real estate to do more out of the box things, and I guess that's probably the reason he kept going back to it.
Yeah, totally. He can be like, I said it was a supporting bass line, but like it's a Les Claypool supporting bass line. Like,
right.
It's like
he's not just hitting root notes.
Everyone.
Yeah, he's
right. Yeah. But it's rarely doubling apart. It's like big slides, and they complement Brain's either super pocket, tight like metal funk, or his big like tribal tom playing. Like these fretless parts support either of those like percussive kind of aesthetics.
Yeah, and when he does double, I think he's doubling bucket on that on that ascending stop-start part, but then Les inverts it a couple of times, so he's not just in unison, he's going down where Buckethead's going up and so on. It's pretty cool that he's finding those variations. Our last Primates take, Frankie, comes from Brooks Delight, who has augmented his name. It's now Brooks, what you gonna do about it, Delight? And Brooks says, I'm a big fan of this track. It's got a really loose feel to it while still holding itself together. I don't know how they pulled that off. Bernie really drives this track beautifully.
Yeah.
This is what Brooks does. He breaks it down, and eventually he's going to take our jobs. He's so good at that. Thanks, Brooks.
Yeah, that sums it up nicely.
Yeah, it took us an hour, once again, to get to where Brooks got in 17 words.
Yeah, good thing you didn't lead with that.
Let's do this now. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The jam vehicle. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. A true jam vehicle. Live cuts.
A jam vehicle.
Live cuts. The jam vehicle. Live cuts.
What's going on here? Shards of bone in my anus.
Love that.
Thanks, Gino. It is time for live cuts. Frankie, you have sent 2 live cuts of Scott Taylor today. As you postulated, Luke, Scott Taylor certainly is a jam vehicle as well as a shred vehicle. Our first cut is from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and it is an 11-minute and 31 seconds version of Scott Taylor. Frankie, you provided time codes, but not notes. So are we in for surprises along the way today?
Yes, just enjoy.
The ball game.
Yeah, we are. We're between innings. There's a relief pitcher.
He's dead.
I love that dissonance. Oh, now we're in church. Nice. Oh, yeah. So
Wow.
Bernie gets that
Crazy.
extended solo there. That's cool stuff.
Oh my god, so crazy! So many different vibes and feels going through there. Like literally, like demented circus to like baseball game to gospel, and then he just hits that E pedal tone, just rips into the Phrygian riff. Like, God, what a gem Bernie was.
This is a great example of if you know the rules, you can break them in the most spectacular ways, and that's what he did here. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah,
and it's almost like hearing or seeing or witnessing stream of consciousness, right? It's not stream of consciousness spoken. It's just whatever's coming out of his fingers at the time.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
Yeah, and I think Les just lets everyone be weird in this band. And just when they play with him, he's just like, embrace your inner freak. Like, and that's what this live show was. It was like a freak show, you know, like everyone's wearing masks. There's props, there's dances. It's just like, it's just this crazy freak show, and Les just makes you embrace it. It's such a fun live show.
Yeah, and he said to us that it was just very casual, and whatever they thought of, they did. And it seems like there were no limitations.
Yeah, that's so cool. I wish there was more footage of this online. I've looked on YouTube, and it's like very early Bernie Brains. There's some footage, like when the shows were just improv, but there's not much from this tour. Unless Frankie has some like vault I don't know about.
There are like three three or four full concerts from 2004 available in
There are from this tour? Okay, cool.
in very good quality.
Send me that shit.
Yep.
Give the man a fix. Let's go to the 7-minute mark here in Albuquerque. Yeah. Oh, Brain's doing some work on this one. That sounds great. This sounds heavier than the record too. I think maybe the tempo's a little slower, which could be contributing to it, but sounds fantastic.
Digging in more for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
This was a heavy one live.
Yeah, excellent stuff. And I appreciate that the other three guys just go, all right, Bernie, and then they get a breather, and Bernie's doing all the work carrying things.
Shit, they probably love it. They just get to listen to Bernie rip. Like, who doesn't want to do that?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, that's the other benefit of it is I get to sit back and watch Bernie play.
Yeah.
And I'm getting
sure for
paid
Les,
to do
that was amazing every night.
Yeah,
you just
Les like,
see
I'm
one of his
getting
heroes."
paid to do this?
Yeah.
This is great. Our second live cut is from San Francisco, California. Is this Halloween, Frankie?
Halloween.
Oh, Halloween shows always special.
Yeah.
This one, Luke, is over 9 minutes, so they certainly did take this one out.
It's a shred vehicle.
Let's all get in. I'm going to echo Frankie's sentiment that if you saw Bernie Brains live, I also am jelly.
Dude, Brain just goes so hard. Oh my god. Crazy.
Killer.
You didn't see any shows on the tour?
No, I couldn't make it to the closest one was Chicago, which was very far from where I was living at the time.
Yeah, it was incredible. And I remember just like when we found, I don't know, we got the soundboard somehow, but
yeah.
I listened to that soundboard like every day. It was so cool. And they did this thing on that tour. I think like almost every show, like the second song would just be like a funk jam.
Nice.
And like sometimes they would tease P-Funk songs or sometimes other songs. But I remember from the show them doing this funk jam, and I was like, man, that's so cool. And then when I listened back to it, trying to figure out the bass line and what a cool little funk jam they went into. And then years later, when I was in like a funk bass lab at Berkeley, I realized the song was Glide by a band called Pleasure.
Yeah.
And it's a banger of a song. And like we've teased it in the special sets. We've played it in another band, The Mates. Any bass players out there that want to learn a really sick funk slap line that clearly had an influence on Les, check out Pleasure, Glide.
Yeah. Yeah. Frog Brigade played that a lot, didn't they, Frankie?
Oh, did they really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sick. Oh, I never knew that. That was just so cool to me. That they
sometimes it was teased, and once it was performed full.
Oh, just
cool.
once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they kind of just jammed it a bit at that show, that October 1st Roseland show. But they did the whole progression, and it stuck with me for sure.
I'm going to play one more bit from San Francisco. Let's see what's in store. It's Bernie. I'm glad you picked all those Bernie flourishes and spotlights, Frankie. Those are the best. You're a man of great taste. You always pick good stuff.
Nicely done, Franklin.
As evidenced by my pastries.
Yes,
Of
You are
course.
truly a man of great taste.
Music, food, it's all. The wonders never cease. I guess I could say this. It's our turn for the hard-hitting coverage, Scott Taylor, and you've been tracked. Next time, Frankie, what's that in the sky?
It is the title track.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a UFO. It's just a big eyeball. We're going to be fine. Luke Bemand, thank you so much for taking the time to talk Scott Taylor with us, and it's always a pleasure to have you on, man.
Great to see you again, Luke.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you for reminding me how hard this album and this track slaps.
You bet, man. LeSpecial.net is the website, if you still go to websites, that is. Luke's at LeSpecial Music on the socials, and at Luke Bemand Bass. And you can find Luke in a lot of places. You're pretty darn active, buddy.
Thanks, pal.
Yeah.
Try to stay active.
I try to put something snarky on almost every Facebook post of yours, but sometimes I forget.
I appreciate it. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Yeah, will do. Primates, people of Earth, primatrons, however you classify yourselves. We'll see you next time. Later days.
Willie Mays.